And it's only the teachers really that say these things, that can claim these insane, I went to the third heaven and I saw God and we had this conversation and I got healed, whatever.
But okay, I wanted to switch gears just a little bit to bring a little
Sure.
bit of life to the conversation. I'm going to bring up
Sure.
some pictures, and I would just like for you to tell us the first thing that pops up in your mind when you
Oh, fun.
see
Okay,
the
yay.
person that I'm about to show. Okay, here's the first one.
Oh, that is somebody very familiar.
Kenyon? Kenyon.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I usually see them in black and white. I usually see, yes, that's E.W. Kenyon.
Okay, so what is E.W. Kenyon's role in this whole new thought thing?
Oh, this is fun. Um, E.W. Kenyon is the pivotal character for why the Word of Faith movement is what it is today.
Okay.
There's so much controversy over this guy because I mean, here we are talking about people not wanting to believe. Yeah, EW Kenyon is very important. I get some pushback from hyper charismatics or like some people in the charismatic world for this, but I'm like, I can't help history.
Hmm.
I can't help but EW. You can read his own works and find this stuff. I don't know what you want from me. So anyway, EW Kenyon, he was a Baptist minister. Okay, he was not Pentecostal. He was not charismatic, though he was very popular in those circles.
Mm.
Because he for lots of reasons, but he went to Emerson College. Okay,
Mhm.
Emerson College at that time was a metaphysical New Thought college, and there was a man there named Ralph Waldo Trine, not to be confused with Ralph Waldo Emerson,
Okay.
but Trine was one of the most, and is still one of the most revered New Thought authors and men of all time, and he mentored and taught Kenyon. Like it's very clear. I wouldn't say he mentored them, but it's very clear that he taught under Ralph Waldo Trine.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the other thing that it's really important about or about Kenyon is that he read a lot of metaphysical material at this time. Okay. And was very interested in it. And I did the same thing. Okay. I read a lot of metaphysical material for the research for my book. But I looked at it at a different way than he did, though. He looked at it like, "Oh, this is interesting because they're getting results. This movement, what they're teaching works.
Mhm.
How does this how can we have this? How can we Christianize this?" You know? So, in other words, what he did is he took, this is why he's important. He took metaphysical New Thought beliefs and Christianized them. And he wrote books about it. Like, you can see how the terminology changed,
Mhm.
how he's trying to Christianize these things. He's saying there's a Christian version for these things. Because at the time, the cultural moment at that time was you had these positive thinking, self-help beliefs
Mhm.
coming forth that seem very powerful and are getting results. People were healed, Ty, right? People became rich. These were things that he saw that, and they're doing it in the name of God, in the name of Christ. So he would have actually said that New Thought beliefs were heretical. He didn't agree with them, but
Mhm.
he adopted a lot of them and Christianized them.
Mm.
Okay, all right. Then the next person in our fun story is a man named Kenneth Hagin, okay, who demonstrably read Kenyon's work. Okay. You have a lot of the healing and a lot of the beliefs that are crossing over from New Thought into the Word of Faith movement because of
Mhm.
Kenyon's beliefs. And it was at this time he's reading Kenyon, then all of a sudden he starts teaching about prosperity. And he starts, he starts, oh, God told me this, God brought me this. But what in reality, it was Kenyon that made these beliefs very popular in Pentecostal circles
Yeah.
and in these arenas of Christianity that helped evolve into the Word of Faith movement. And so I'd also like to point out that the Word of Faith movement is not inherently New Thought in
Mhm.
origin.
Okay.
It's made up of, yeah, it's made up of a few. You have the Pentecostal faith cure movement. You have all these things that kind of make up this thing called Word of Faith. Some of it is orthodox.
Mhm.
But in this vein of thinking, and again, I wrote the chapter goes over these 4 things that I go over, of why of drawing that line back to these specific New Thought teachings, and you can't do that without bringing up Kenyon. So Kenyon is part of the problem that we have with the prosperity, health, and wealth teachings.
So we're doing basically the Word of Faith, family
Oh, you have a
trees.
picture of Kenneth Hagin up here. Look
Yeah,
at you,
we
you're
just
ready.
yeah, since you mentioned him, is there anything else you
Mm.
wanna say about Kenneth Hagin before we go to the next person?
No, just other than he's the father of the Word of Faith movement, and he's what he is who okay, he's what made it into what we know of it today, right? Because it's evolved into it's had so many things happen to this movement to evolve it, but Kenneth Hagin is the reason why and how the Word of Faith movement is what it is today.
Yeah, my parents grew up on Kenneth Hagin, and we went to a church and they had a whole Kenneth Hagin teaching series. And actually, a lot of people, a lot of pastors from my hometown, I think they went to whatever his healing school was. And so then they planted churches in my
Rama?
hometown. Rhema, yeah, they went to Rhema and then came to my hometown and started churches.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the next person.
Oh,
Uncle Kenny.
I would just love to see a photo of him where it doesn't scare me at first. You know, and I know that's like that's an ad hominem, if anybody wants to know.
Yes.
Yes, that is a personal attack against Kenneth Hagin and the way that he looks, I get it, but I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it is startling. Yeah,
You're not
Kenneth
wrong.
Copeland. No, I mean, yeah, Kenneth Copeland is another big player into how the Word of Faith movement evolved today. Little God's doctrine.
Mhm.
I mean, you're talking about somebody who's telling you that you have the same power Jesus has. I mean,
Mhm.
uh, the amalgamation of beliefs that he has. Yeah, yeah, I just made a video about him. I went to the Kenneth Copeland conference, and I made a video about my visit there. Not
That
much
video
to
was
say other
hilarious.
than yeah, not much to say other than mark and avoid. Yeah.
The next one.
Joyce Meyer. Oh, wow. Yeah, she was somebody I used to watch all the time when
Mhm.
I was actually, she was one of the first people when the day that I got saved, it all comes back to me. Um, I remember purposely looking on the TV for preachers. I was so hungry to know more. I'm like, "Ooh, give me more, give me more. I wanna know more about God." And I came across Charles Stanley and
Mhm.
Joyce Meyer. And I watched her for years and years. And it's really interesting. She can be a lot more firm, I
Mhm.
think. I went to like Joyce Meyer conferences and stuff like that. Definitely word of faith.
Yeah.
Um, which I was so disappointed to find out because I had watched her for so long.
Yeah.
But when I got out of these beliefs, when I got out of New Age, New Thought, I was so disappointed. I was like, Joyce,
I know.
no.
I
Yeah.
know. Joyce is
Um,
one of the ones I don't want to dislike because
yeah.
like you feel
She
like
can be
she's
really
your
firm. She
yeah.
can say some things.
She
Yeah.
says a lot of good things, but I can say the same about Bill Johnson. Like
Yep. Yeah.
before I kind of
Mhm.
reshaped my theology, I'm like, man, I like Bill Johnson, and now I'm like, oh, this is
Mhm.
really
My
bad.
connection was more emotional, right? It was like it was
Yeah,
hard to let go for the simple connection reason that I was connected to her, but now I'm like, "Oh, yeah, no, mark and avoid."
it's so bad. And then once you start to see the offering buckets go down the
Mhm.
aisles, like you feel a little bit less. Like I
Yeah.
don't really feel so sorry for you, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, here's the next one.
Is that Andrew Womack?
Yes, it's Mr. Womack.
Yeah, I didn't listen to him so much, but Andrew Womack is another prosperity teacher, Word
Yeah.
of Faith. Yeah, he's definitely intertwined with Kenneth Copeland.
Mhm.
Um, he's one of those people that comes up every now and then with the stuff that he teaches, and I'm like, "Oh, no."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but they're all part of the same world when it
Yeah.
comes to this kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I went to a Andrew Womack conference once or whatever kind of tent meeting. Again, this seems like the most likable guy. Like I would
Yes,
love to go sit
Jesse
down.
Duplantis, same thing, yeah.
Yeah, like let's go to Shoney's and do breakfast with Andrew Womack. Like I think that would be a
Oh,
lot of fun.
man. I
But
forgot about Shoney's.
some of his healing stories, you just start to think, how did I ever believe this? He said his stepson was dead, or not, maybe not his stepson, son or stepson. I think it was his actual son. He said his son died and was in the morgue for 4 hours, had turned black, had a toe tag
Yeah.
on, and then God resurrected him. And for years, I thought, man, did that really happen? I guess it's
You know, and
possible.
the stories are
It's-
so okay, here's the thing. If, let's see, if Costi Hinn, okay, came up to me one day and said, "I had a family member die. They were dead for 4 days and they rose again." I would believe him.
Mhm.
But we never why is it that it's only in these circles, okay? They would say it's because for different reasons, right? Like, "Oh, it's the Holy Spirit, we're working in the Holy
Mhm.
Spirit, I think it's for another reason. I think that it's definitely a lot for this display of power, or at
Yeah.
least to give the facade of this display of power. And
Mhm.
it's only the teachers really that say these things. That can claim these insane, I went to the third heaven and I saw God and we had this conversation and I got healed, whatever. Why is nobody else that's probably way more theologically sound,
Mhm.
way more spiritual,
Mhm.
even if they're charismatic, never get that kind of experience? But because that's what people want, right? They want that kind of experience and then they don't feel loved by God unless they get it.
Yeah.
So what do? They manufacture it,
Mhm.
right? Because they want to feel loved. And so
Mhm.
what ends up happening is there's this over reliance on feelings, emotions, and then we kid ourselves. It's like we think that we see things that we don't actually see.
Yeah.
We think that we experience things, yeah, and then we think that something's put in our mind that God put there when we are just so sensitive
Mm.
that we can't discern.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of it too. And then it has like Benny Johnson, Bill Johnson's wife.
Mhm.
One of the ways that she postured her experiences is it's her imagination,
Yeah.
right? Like if you can imagine it, then that's actually what's happening in the spiritual realm with God. I'm simplifying that.
Mm.
But that was the basically the conclusion that you come to. And so what ends up happening is your imagination goes wild and you come up with these stories that aren't real. Oh, there's so much to say with that, but yeah, I think they're just fabrications.
Which just makes me question. I'm like, okay, Andrew Womack, one of the things I always liked about him is because, according to him, he's like, I don't have a lot of money. Me and my family live in the same house we've been living in for 60
Humble
years.
brag.
Yeah, a humble brag. Exactly. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's the theme of tonight. So now to
Well,
think,
and then you have the issue of what is it called? There's a fallacy with this too, but it's like it gives him a sense of trust.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, but keep going with what you were saying.
Well, yeah, it's hard for me now to reconcile. How can someone who claims to be a Bible teacher know that you're telling bold-faced lies? Like you know that you're lying, and
Because
you've been
you
telling
can't
this
question
lie
them.
for decades. You've been
Yeah.
telling it for decades. There's no evidence. Like, where is his son? Where's his video? Like, I've never even seen him do a Sid Roth stint. You know what I mean? Like,
But you can't question them. You cannot question, do not question God's anointed. That's the other thing. We're talking about critical thinking before. You're not allowed to question the leaders in this movement.
oh, it's kind of
Yeah.
sickening. I'm like, I have to love these people as image bearers, but I just wonder, how can you carry on such a huge lie for
Yeah.
so long with no.
Agreed.
Yeah, okay.
TD Jakes. Oh man. TD Jakes is definitely aligned more with New Thought than most other pastors. He would probably be the most wordy faithist pastor.
All right.
Yeah, buds with Oprah, all the things. Is that his daughter, Sarah Jakes?
Yeah. Do you know anything about her?
I know very little about her, but you and I talked about her. Oh, that's right, we did. Remember
Yeah.
we were messaging each other. I'm like, "No way." Oh yeah, she's definitely on my radar because of some of the things that she has taught for sure.
Yeah, she often talks about like her being divine, like our divine.
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna have to send me more of that because
Now I'll put
I yep. Oh, geez. Okay.
and you did a video about
Oprah
this one,
I
so
did a whole there's how am I gonna put this in a sentence? Oprah's not a new ager. Oprah's the best example that I could possibly come up with for new thought. She says she's a Christian. She
mhm.
says Christiany things. She touts this weird Christianity. I made a whole 2-hour video about why she's not a new ager. She is a new thoughter.
Yeah. All right, and then the last one.
Oh, Joel. Joel Osteen. Yeah, Joel Osteen is the I take that back. It's not TD Jakes. TD Jakes is not the most wordiest faithist. It is now Joel Osteen. Joel Osteen is I quote him actually in my book. Actually, no, let me take that back. I watched a New Thought documentary and they had a whole section about Joel Osteen. About how he's basically a Unity New Thought minister who,
Mhm.
like, shakes around a Bible every once in a while, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, that's a New Thought message that that man is saying. These are from New Thought reverends. These are from New Thought ministers. And, I a very little known fact about him, and I actually wanna watch, who made Honest Youth Pastor. He makes these, like, deep dive videos
Yeah, he's
about pastors and stuff. He made one about Joel Osteen, and I really wanna watch it because I really would like to know more about Joel's upbringing. But one thing that's kind of not known very much about him is his father was very good friends with the New Thought movement and worked with, I think it was John G. Lake. Was it John G. Lake? Who is very well known in the charismatic circles, but John G. Lake was very involved with New Thought. Like he was very good friends with New Thought teachings and the congregations in that area. So, it's no doubt to me at all that Joel draws on New Thought for sure, and he's friends with Oprah.
yeah, and, again, these are very likable people who kind of mix all this
I'd have
stuff
coffee with
in.
Joel.
Yeah, and I'm sure it will be a nice time.
Mhm, I would tell him to repent, but we would have coffee
Yeah.
and we would enjoy it.
I guess what I would say about these people is if you're listening to a pastor who they don't really give you the tools to be able to maybe lead a Jehovah's Witness to faith or a non-Christian to faith, like what are they teaching you? I was thinking about that
Mm,
today, like because
hmm,
I was talking to Melissa earlier. I met with a couple of Jehovah's Witnesses and
yeah,
we just, talked about our different beliefs and all that. And I'm just thinking there's nothing that I could have gotten from Andrew Womack or Kenneth Copeland that would have helped me to
mhm,
defend the faith against this type of person. So
mhm,
if they're not giving you that, like what are they teaching you every Sunday? Things ultimately that don't matter. Like if I never get
yep.
$1 million or whatever thing it is that I want or whatever superpower, that's okay. But if I can't tell somebody the gospel, then how good is my Christianity? You know what I mean?